want to move into more of what you're working on now.
Mhm.
From what I understand, you do a lot of work on the UI experience for Holochain apps and Holo apps.
Yes. Yes.
So could you speak a bit about what your front end work is like? What has been your experience in developing some of the first Holo apps?
Yes, absolutely. Our vision is to create a UI experience that is actually so familiar to you that you might not even know it's Holo. And I should say that to distinguish what Holo is going to be the portal into the Holochain applications from the browser side. So if you're coming in and either not aware of what Holochain is or don't yet have Holochain natively on your device, you can go into the browser and go to a domain or go to a space, and that is a Holochain application, and interact with that application in the same way you would as any other application. That's the vision. Creating the UI for that, though, it's been really interesting. And I'll bring in both Holochain and Holo in the scope because I feel like creating the UI for Holo in some way should be very similar to Holochain, aside from a few small details you need to include into your Holo application to make it Holo enabled. Back in the proto ways, the UI and the DNA were very coupled, and essentially you're in one repo and you're writing them together and they interact in that space. And as we've been discussing the Rust versions of Holochain and how we're actually pursuing these production level environments for our releases for Holochain and then for Holo, we've had many discussions about what is an application and what is the DNA and what is the UI and how should they interact, and what would if we're trying to break it down into agency and adaptability, what does that mean? And what we came down to is a UI does not need to be singly paired with a single DNA. These are each services that they're able to provide, and we can create different combinations of them that best fit any user's interest. I mean, it comes down to the user, and again, that agent-centric viewpoint and their interaction with people. So what the DNA does, it can do, I mean, you create a DNA and it could be headless in many ways, or you could have the zones expose an API that connects to a UI, and then you can have an application that people can go to and visit. And that's, of course, where I'm working at. So for me, what that means is, as a UI developer, you have now the choice to write in any language that you want and is familiar to you. And you can create this environment and connect it to a DNA, or you can connect it to another service, but it's as flexible and as creative and as, you can make it your own. So I'm typically writing in React and Redux because I find that those constructs create a very modular and stateful context that really aligns with the architectural style of Holochain. And so for me, it's very easy to map between the two, and we can easily pass data and have it displayed in the way that is clear and concise and consistent. In general, the experience of working with an UI now in Holo and Holochain is pretty freeing. You can be as creative and as traditional as you want, essentially, and it is able to adapt to the movement of and rate of change that really is known to the UI development world. So, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, that's what really excited me about the project too. Was the composability and sort of decoupling of the UI.
Yes.
And being able to sort of have your own version or vision being able to be manifested. So.
Absolutely.
Yes, and that's leads sort of to the next question of what do you see in the future for building UIs on Holochain? So you've gone over a lot of what's possible, and if you want to dive deeper into sort of what you're working on specifically, or just your future visions of what it'll be like.
Specifically in terms of the work that I'm working on right now, our three main projects. I'm working on HC Admin, so Holochain Admin, Holo Hosting App GUI, and the Holo Fuel GUI. So I'll first start with HC Admin. HC Admin to first describe what it is, actually I'll describe a little bit about the conductor. So The conductor is what runs the core services of Holochain. And in order to install a DNA or run a DNA instance or connect a UI to a DNA by those JSON RPC protocols, the DNA conductor must be configured to represent those needs. And the HC admin, through use of the publicly exposed APIs from the conductor, is able to connect to the conductor and perform those calls and create a file that gives the list of instructions for each of the different things you want to do. Then so that the conductor can actually expose all those different DNAs or UIs on the ports they need to be, so that you can have the experience you need. So you can go and it'll combine a DNA with the UI, and you can go to that site and you can experience it as normally you would with any other website. But in the background, the conductor has told that the UI needs to connect with this DNA, and it's received that instruction list from your HC admin. So really, like, and I like to see it as like your HC admin is like the face into Holochain. And we will be offering HC admin for our Holo hosts within the Holo ports for them to be able to manage and use. But again, they also are a part of that bridge between Holochain and Holo. So it's fun for them to also have that usability functionality at their hands. Next, I guess I'll talk about the Holo hosting application. So I'm working on specifically the GUI for that, but just to give you a little insight into what the Holo hosting application is, it has intention for 2 specific users. So we have our Holo hosts, which are the owners of Holo ports, and we have our app providers, which are developers that have created Holochain applications that are Holo enabled. And really, depending on which user, you would see a different UI, but they're both meant to be kind of a space where you can configure and have information about what is pertinent to you on Holo. So for app providers, they need to know what applications they've already made available and enabled for Holo to be hosted. They go in and they see which applications they've already made enabled for the Holo context. When I say enabled, there are a few different steps you need to do in order to make sure it can connect to our H client and kind of go through the whole process of Holo. So as long as it has that, it's enabled, but you can, even if it's enabled, it doesn't mean that it necessarily is hosted. So you can choose whether or not you want to be kind of available for hosting or not. This is going to be more of their dashboard space for that. And for Holo hosts themselves, when they go in, for them, it's more of like an app store experience, but for Holo. So they can see all the different applications that are available for hosting. And at this point, actually, each application is a bundle. So they're going to be specific instances of DNAs and UIs that are put together for people, like a full experience for the web application or for a user to visit. So they go in and they can see these different combinations of bundles and choose if they want to host them or not. And they can do it by category, or they can do it by a single, application bundle that they really are a fan of. So that's the main basic vision right now. There's so much more that we have in the future aligned for future functionality. So really what it comes down to is like how much complexity we want to offer for different configuration. So, for price metrics, or for being able to see how well the application is received in a community, or, how many users are on it, what bandwidth or power it requires to be run. So it's a lot of different things to be considered in those spaces that we're wanting to reflect appropriately for the right user. But yeah, it's exciting because it'll be essentially one of the main spaces that people that are on Holo as a contributor need to visit and see. Simple and intuitive has kind of been my go-to kind of creation style for a lot of these applications in the moment, clearly because we are also at this most nascent stage for closed alpha, but also I think that style helps people digest knowledge best in some ways. So that's kind of been where I am with the Holo hosting app, and then GUI. And then the third one that I've really been focusing on is the Holo Fuel GUI. My colleague Perry has been writing the HoloFuel app, and he's really been making a HoloFuel application that we can, or a currency application that we can be really proud of. For me, it's just been providing a simple interface, like I said, for the Holo hosting, using that same kind of style guideline in this interface so people can clearly understand, like, yeah, like I'm using this new currency HoloFuel and make round trips from either proposing or receiving or requesting funds and see how their balance is changing. At the same time, it's exciting because it's totally different currency model, and this is why it's for me so special, because it's going to be one of the first of its kind, and especially with use of the Holochain application, Holochain architecture. So for us, we have it at a stage where we're testing on the test net, and we'll be moving forward from there. So yeah, I mean, for me, those are the three main ones that I've been working on, and it's fun because they really are the fundamental applications for Holochain, and especially for Holo. And so it'll be fun to see how people can understand and interact with these spaces through them.